Broony Mowbray says that Scott Brown can leave Celtic, and Peter Grant said they would drive him anywhere. So on today's Celtic FC News, there's been a podcast released this morning by one of the daily newspapers in Scotland, and Scott Brown has been interviewed talking about his time at Celtic. And the big news from that, the big take from that, if you haven't seen the video, is the fact that Tony Mowbray told Scott Brown that he could leave Celtic. Peter Grant, who was his assistant at the time, told Scott that he would drive him anywhere he wanted. At the time, Scott Brown did have offers from Newcastle, he said, and Tottenham at the time, but he said he would rather stay at Celtic and he would fight for his position. And at the end of the transfer window that season, in 2009, he became captain. And then it was obviously just time after that Lenny came on, and then, you know how the story goes, it was on the road to 9 in a row. Lenny came in, and if you haven't seen the video that I did the day that Lenny signed for Celtic, I went there with my two daughters at the time. I'll put the link up here now, and I'll also put the link at the end of this video. So that was the video, the day that Neil Lennon signed for Celtic, back in the day, to start the road to 9 in a row for the second time in Celtic's history. Scott Brown also took time to speak about Tommy Burns and the fact that when Tommy Burns was on his deathbed, and it was the very day that he actually passed away, Scott's sister received a bunch of flowers from Tommy. And we all know what kind of person Tommy was, and a total Celtic man and gentleman through and through. He also went on the fact that it was at that time that he found out how much Celtic actually meant to him. The fact that Peter Lawwell would actually call Scott and ask him how him and his family were doing. Talking about the Tommy Burns funeral, I remember the time. I remember looking when the bus cortege passed Celtic Park, and I can specifically remember Scott on that day sitting looking out the window in a complete daze, and he was miles away compared to like all the other players on the bus, and you could see he was really in deep thought. And obviously his sister was going through it at the time, and I think it was that day he realised what Celtic means to him and what Celtic means to players. You know, it was a really emotional day that day. And I mean, the fans were right down in front of Celtic Park and right down London Road, and I can always remember the bus turning the corner at the bottom of the Celtic Way, and it was a really, you could see that Scott was really deep in thought that day. Celtic captain also went on to talk about Gordon Strachan and how Gordon Strachan changed him from the type of player that would run around the park as a headless chicken, as he said, to a more all-round football player who would study the game. And basically Gordon Strachan made him the player that he was, he turned around and said. Celtic captain also went on to say that he's still pretty devastated to this day that he got booked for it. He said, "I've not even ran or took my top off, I just stood there and put my arms up." That's bad refereeing, by the way, and Scott knows a thing or two about bad refereeing, but he is the guy that captained Celtic for over 12 years. For 12 years, he is the captain that had done the amazing quadruple treble, and he is just a complete legend, leader and captain of Celtic, and he will always be that man. So looking at yesterday's video, it was a bit controversial, and Scottish referees want the SFA to take action over the derogatory banner displayed at Celtic Park against Douglas Ross. Maybe they'll take offence with their own referees are actually pictured at Rangers pubs after Celtic Rangers games. But maybe not, because it's the Lanarkshire Referee Association, isn't it, after all? The Scottish Referee Association, aka the Lanarkshire Referee Association, have made representation and have made a complaint to the compliance officer, it has been reported today. Reportedly hope the compliance officer will write to Celtic and ask which measures were in place to prevent the banner being in place and displayed, and urged not to repeat again. However, the SFA has no power to punish clubs for banners displayed by supporters or offensive chants in the stands. Ah, dear, oh dear, oh dear. So there was lots of comments about it yesterday. I'm not going to read the comments. I read some of them yesterday. You can go back and look at the comments. It was quite a divisive thing to be said. A lot of people taking umbrage with the C word. I think there was a lot worse shouted and said at football in the 80s and 90s. But yes, it is 2023, and should the Green Brigade have done it? I think the reaction inside the ground at the time tells you that it was all in good jest. On that note, I hope you've liked the video today. Remember, smash the thumbs up, and I shall see you on the next video. Have a great day, Celtic fans all around the world.